Deputy Speaker, I want to focus my comments today on Gaza, which is the world's largest open-air prison. Of the 2 million people crammed into the 139 square miles of Gaza, over a third are 15, and almost half are under 25. And in their short lives, they've seen a lot. A child born 10 years ago in Gaza has already lived through 3 wars. And of those who died in those conflicts, 1 in 5 were children. And their future looks bleak. According to the UN, we are in a process of de-development in Gaza, so that by 2020, the strip may well be technically uninhabitable. 96% of groundwater in Gaza is unfit for human consumption, and the sea is polluted with sewage. Power shortages mean that were it not for the increasingly hard to obtain fuel that runs emergency generators, hospitals would go dark. That would mean up to 40 surgical operation theatres, 11 obstetric theatres, 5 hemodialysis theatres, and hospital emergency rooms serving almost 4,000 patients a day being forced to halt critical services. And as always, it is children who are hit hardest. In April, a 5-year-old girl with cerebral palsy died while waiting for a permit to travel to a hospital in East Jerusalem. She'd already been waiting for 2 months. Mr. Deputy Speaker, it seems that the bureaucracy of the blockade held out for longer than that little girl's health could. Meanwhile, in Israel, we see a Prime Minister who is driven not by concern for his nation, but by concern for the retention of his office. As yesterday's approval of over 1,000 illegal settlements units in East Jerusalem shows, we see an Israeli government that is undermining the integrity of a future Palestinian state, and in doing so is undermining itself and its own security. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I will give way.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. My honourable friend draws out very clearly the human tragedy of what is happening today in Gaza. But is he concerned that Hamas have recently rebuilt 15 of their terrorist tunnels, being prepared for Hamas to launch attacks on the civilians of Israel?
I thank my honourable friend for her intervention. I accept that there is an unacceptable cycle of violence, and clearly all parties in this conflict need to find a solution. But I also feel that in the current circumstances, Israel holds the whip hand, and it is up to Israel to make that first move. The fact is that there can be no security without peace, and there can be no peace without security. And essential to peace is a two-state solution. And I do not make this point from a partisan perspective, but rather I make it in echoing the sentiments of the former head of Mossad, Mr. Tamir Pardo, who, lamenting the apparent rejection of a two-state solution by Netanyahu, just a few months ago said, Israel faces one existential threat, and it is not external, Iran or Hezbollah, but rather internal, the result of a divisiveness in Israel resulting from a government that has decided to bury its head deep in the sand, to preoccupy itself with alternative facts, and to flee from reality. I will give way.
I'm grateful to my honourable friend for giving way. He's making an excellent speech. Does he agree with me that the founding principles of Israel that have made it in so many respects a great country in the last 50 years, namely democracy and respect for the rule of law and founded on social justice and democratic principles, are being eroded by the Israeli government when they seek to silence legitimate human rights organisations within their own country, whether that be B'Tselem or breaking the silence, and that strikes at the heart of Israel's fundamental and very welcome democratic character?
I thank my honourable friend and agree absolutely with the sentiments that he expresses, and particular concerns around the entry bill, of course, which would prevent honourable members in this House who have expressed concerns about trade with illegal settlements potentially being blocked from entry to Israel. This is undermining Israel's national interest. Mr. Pardo is right. The blockade and the effective occupation of Gaza and the illegal settlements not only imperil the children of Palestine, subjecting them to a form of collective punishment for acts that they played no part in committing, they also imperil the future of Israel itself, creating a deep divide in Israeli society that Pardo sees as the beginning of a path potentially to civil war. Mr. Deputy Speaker, 2017 marks the 50-year anniversary of the occupation. We must now ask ourselves what a further 50 years of the politics of oppression, aggression, and division will mean. Policies that have polluted the Israel body politic, just as they have the Palestinian. In 2012, the Israeli Interior Minister Eli Yishai called for Gaza to be sent back to the Middle Ages. Well, he is just 2 hours of electric a day short of achieving that objective. If the Middle Ages is what we want, then it may well be what we get. A life that is nasty, brutish, and short. What we currently see is an Israel that is in clinical denial, sipping cappuccino on the lip of the volcano, and a Palestine that is in clinical despair, with an acute sense that politics is incapable of delivering a solution. And the root cause of both, as the former Mossad chief has made clear, is the blockade and the occupation. And so I hope that today this House will speak with one voice, for the sake of both the Palestinian and the Israeli people, in calling for an end to the blockade, in calling for immediate humanitarian assistance in Gaza, and in calling for an end to the illegal settlements. Thank you.